Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Some of you that I saw earlier today, welcome back. Okay. At this time, we will begin our board meeting. I will call the March 6, 2024 meeting of the Board of Education to order. We will now recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first order of business is the approval of the agenda. I'll accept a motion to approve the March 6, 2024 agenda presented before us this evening. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Yep. Thank you, Board Member Vivian, and thank you, VP Nohalani. Any discussion, additions, or corrections?
The walk-on resolutions that we have, are they consistent with what's on the computer or with what's on the printed paper we have? Where are they going?
On the computer.
Okay, so in the order in which we were given them?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion to accept the March 6, 2024 meeting agenda carries. The next order of business is the approval of the minutes. The minutes for the board meeting on February 7th and the work session on February 28th, Board of Education meeting are presented for approval. May I have a motion to accept these minutes? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Board Member Amanda. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Nohalani. Any additions, corrections, discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion to accept the February 7th and February 28th, 2024 board and work session meeting minutes carries. At this time, we will welcome public comments, which we have none for tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Soler.
Good evening, board members. Good evening, community. My comments will be brief tonight. There are more important items to be hopefully discussed and recognized. Obviously, there are obviously a bunch of important resolutions, but probably none more important than the approval of the next superintendent of Schenectady City Schools, Dr. Carlos Cotto. I do want to make my comments more geared a little differently, just because I don't know what it looks like moving forward, and I want to be honest about that. I think the board has done a tremendous job through this process, and I want to, once again, I've said this in privately to all of those who I've encountered, I just want to thank the board for entrusting me almost 3 years ago in July of 2021 to come into Schenectady to reopen our schools, and to give me the latitude and the flexibility to start at that point this concept of Schenectady Rising. And so I think in the 2 years and 10 months or so that we would have been together, I feel really proud that Schenectady is a different place, and the conversations are different. They're grounded in children, and they're grounded in community. We're not there yet. The work's not there yet, but I do want to thank the board for believing in me and allowing me this opportunity to serve this community and city. I also want to thank the community for taking a chance on an outsider. There's always sometimes negative language when people come from outside, but I do want to thank the community for being open to someone from the outside to come in and fight for children. And, I will say this, I've said this before, we were one of the only districts that wasn't open for over 18 months, and to reopen these doors was a big ask at that time. I want to thank my executive team. We look different from when we first started this journey together 3 years ago, but I'm excited for what the future holds for you. And I'm more proud that the future holds somebody from within that group to assume the leadership. So thank you to the executive team. I want to welcome Carlos for his next chapter in his career. I think he will do well by this community. What I would tell you is to hang on to what resonated most about Carlos when I asked him to join me 3 years ago, because he took a risk too. All he knew was the city of Rochester, and to take a risk to join me, his crazy friend, on a journey to try to make a difference in a new community. And he, without hesitation, after he talked to his wife, he said yes. And so here they are, and to see that he's the one who rose from the group as the next, I do believe he's the right person at the right time. I do believe the team is extremely talented, and then collectively they're going to move forward under his leadership. And I want to welcome you, and I want you to stay grounded in the things that make you who you are, and that is purpose. You're purpose-driven. Stay grounded in your values. Always take time to listen. Don't make any rash decisions, and know that I will be watching from a distance. So I will still pick up the phone and call you. You don't need to give me a cricket. I got your number directly, and I can call your wife if I don't reach you. And just my advice to the community, hopefully everyone can move forward now. As these searches go on, sometimes it allows for opportunities for criticism, angst, a variety of things to move forward. And what I'm most excited about is that it can move forward hopefully quicker than anticipated, because you have somebody who's familiar with the heartbeat of Schenectady, and me moving forward will probably not be as visible, and that will be by design. That means that I didn't leave the Yonkers tomorrow, but it'll be real important for me to allow Carlos to start to lead and be in these places, and I can be in the background to coach, support, mentor, and advise as needed, and because I have confidence in his abilities. So moving forward, I probably won't be at many of these board meetings until my departure, but please know I'll be watching, I'll be rooting on the community, and I'll be rooting on this district, because I truly believe that in a couple more years, this will be a national model for a small city. So thank you again, board. Thank you again, community. And I look forward to finishing strong.
Thank you, Superintendent Soler. I'm going to pause on sharing my comments until after our vote, but I will continue with saying, last year on the voting ballot, our community was able to decide by voting whether they supported having students serve as representatives on the board, and the community said yes. I would like to highlight that one way to nurture democratic citizenship is to engage students in governing process of local school boards. There is a consensus on the positivity of having students serve on the board. By creating opportunities for students to participate in the democratic process, school leaders can help student board members to learn how to observe all the laws and rules, how to resolve conflicts peacefully, how to demonstrate a commitment to the public good, and how to work for a community and cooperate with all stakeholders. And to me, more importantly, and I think to the board, we learn a lot from you and from your voices and from your experiences. You are young leaders, and we are so honored, very honored to have you both on the board. So the two student board members are Zohana Nazarin. She's a 12th grader from the high school, and Joyce Akelnamela.
How'd she do? This was a test for her.
Can you pronounce your last name? Okay.
Akelemele.
Akelemele. And I don't want to embarrass you all, but if you can stand up, because this is the first.
Yes.
You are the first.
Historic. You've got a proud papa back there, Mr. Green.
We are so, when I tell you, we are all very excited to have you and to hear your voices and for you to be part of the discussion. And I just want everyone else to know, I know you both know, they are not voting members of the board, but they can engage in conversations. They can tell us, I don't think so, and then they can also share the voices from the school. So it would not just be Schenectady High School. It's going to be across the board. So we'll talk more as a board about how we're doing that, how we're going to do that. I know Joyce and Zohana had many ideas of how we can elicit feedback from other schools and other students. So thank you again for being with us and joining us. Okay, thank you. So So our next board member who is going to share possibly some comments is VP Nohalani, then it's Erica, Vivian, Amanda, Jamaica, and Kathy.
Okay, good evening. So I do want to also echo the warm welcome to both Zohana and Joyce. I am extremely excited to have you both here with us, to be working alongside the board members here in the district. I just think that at such a young age, as I mentioned to you guys both, right, like school's a big deal, and taking on this added responsibility is really, really a big deal. So I love the civic engagement and the fact that you will be involved going forward, and I'm looking forward to working with both of you. Just some small little items. April STEAM Camp registration is currently open. The registration does close March 15th. It's on the website. And then also school social workers, it's school social worker or school social work week. So I did want to just say, you know, shout out to all of our school social workers. Thank you for all that you do for our students, families, the community. It's really appreciated. And those are my comments.
Thank you, Board Member, or Vice President Nohalani. Board Member Erica?
Welcome, Zohana and Joyce. Joyce learned a very fun lesson today about standing next to me during events. I'm just getting used to my new seat over here because I got bumped down a little bit, so I can like stare at all of you, and then I'm kind of in the audience. I can see in everyone's ears. It's an interesting new perspective. And that's all of my comments. They're very insightful. Over to who's next.
Thank you, Board Member Erica. Board Member Vivian?
I just wanted to say welcome to Zohana and Joyce. We're very excited to have you on board with us, and that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Board Member Vivian. Board Member Amanda?
Also, welcome Joyce and Zohana, and I also want to say congratulations, Dr. Kodo. And also, I want to thank the board for the conversations that we have to ultimately make the decisions, even though, you know, sometimes it never gets, what's the word, like, disrespectful. Everyone's always very polite, and I appreciate the conversation, and I do feel at the end of the day that, you know, the decisions that are made are the best for our community. So thank you, board,
Thank you.
and Dr. Kodo for being here.
Thank you, Board Member Amanda. Board Member Jamaica?
Hey, y'all. You could get used to me saying that. That's what I say every single time, and Bernice will make fun of me because it's awesome. So
Amazing.
amazing. It's an A word. Everyone knows I've lived here my entire life. I went from pre-K through high school in this city, raising my children here, and living through a multitude of superintendents and processes. I couldn't be more proud of our transparency, our communication, our commitment to those things, and the ongoing collective nature of us working together as a team. Because no, we don't always agree, but we cannot agree without being disagreeable. And I appreciate partnerships that happen all the time and jokes that happen all of the time. And look forward to working with Carlos as we move forward. It's going to be, I'm not going to say it. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
What are you going to say, Macy?
I'm so honored to be able to have been here through this process with each and every one of you. I appreciate every single one of you. But with that, I am also going to add something else. We've recently had reports about children with disabilities, suspension rates. There's a lot of data, a lot of information that we've gotten. And we don't always get to finish the conversation because we don't want to stay here till midnight. But sometimes we also ask for additional data and information. And while the questions we'll get the answer to and they're added to the notes and that type of thing, I don't know that we're always getting the data that we ask for, right? It's like, oh, hey, I have this question about data. Okay, we'll get back to you. And maybe I missed an email. We have a lot of emails. But I do want to make sure that when we're asking for follow-up data, that we're getting it, because it's really important, especially when it comes to, I'm going to say especially when it comes to our children that are in greatest need, our children that have IEPs and 504s. And when we're looking at suspension rates, and our goal is to have less suspensions, to have more interventions that prevent suspensions, that data is going to be critical, especially as someone who sits on the policy team, that we're looking at policies on how to, if we need to change them, do we need a new policy? Like, thank you, Joe, for making sure like policy team is working really well together. And with the leadership of Nohalani and me and Vivian are doing our thing. We need that information. And so I just want to make sure we're getting it, because I have concerns that there are some areas that need to be addressed, and make sure that we can do our job, especially on the policy team, to set it up and get it ready and then bring it to the full board so that we can move forward.
Thank you, Board Member Jamaica. Board Member Kathy?
Yes, good evening. Once again, ditto. Welcome to Joyce and to Zohana, and congratulations to Carlos, and I look forward to working with you as well. I have a couple of other things I wanted to call to people's attention. I was able to attend a couple of weeks ago the opening of the new family room at Ellis Medicine for adolescents 10 to 17, and that's located at the corner of State and Michigan Avenue and Michigan Avenue Brandywine. And that will be open, as I said, from 10 to 6 each day, Monday to Friday, for those adolescents who need help. It's a walk-in service, and I know our support services are aware of that space, and I think as a community we're grateful to have that to help with social and emotional issues and so on. So I wanted to mention that. I was able to attend the Oneida Middle School Culture Fest. Bernice was there. She did some dancing, but I was not in a position to do that at that point. So, and commend their efforts. I think that was the last time we had snow too that night.
we did.
So,
We had snow.
so that was excellent, and I'm sure that there are many more of those events coming up. I was able to attend the New York State School Board Association this weekend, all day Saturday and part of Sunday, and what we call our mega issue was foundation aid. So I am armed, Terry, with information about foundation aid. And of course, many things that NYSBA does on behalf of all of the children of New York State. So anyone has any questions about that, we'll discuss those at a later point. I did want to announce and call to everyone's attention again, I'm sure you're all aware, that Emma the musical is being done at the high school Thursday, Friday, Saturday evenings. There is no matinee performance this time. And there are a lot of musicals going on all around the Capital District. This is all in preparation for the recognition of the High School Music Awards that is done by Proctor's in mid-May. So if you have a chance to go and support our students in that endeavor, please do. I would also like to offer, because it's also happening this weekend, the congratulations to both, to all the wrestling team members and also to the bowling team members. They're having their annual, I don't know if it's annual, but at least their year-end banquet. And so since we are not all good at being in 3 or 4 places at one time, I want to offer the congratulations at this point. That's what I have at this point.
Thank you, Board Member Kathy. Our district clerk, Michelle, will provide information about the upcoming school board elections.
Hi, I'm Michelle Eden, Clerk of the Board, but I also want to welcome Zohana and Joyce. This year's annual budget vote and board member election will be held on Tuesday, May 21st. Throughout the state, budget votes and elections always take place on the 3rd Tuesday in May. We have 2 board positions up for election this year. If you are interested in running for the board, I have petitions with me here tonight. See me after the conclusion of this meeting. They are also available in my office at 530 Liberty Street. You can email me at edenm@schenectadyschools.org, or call me at 518-370-8100, extension 36907. All of this information is also available on our website, schenectadyschools.org.
Thank you, DC Michelle. The next order of business are the consent agenda items. The consent agenda items includes items that are approved by consent and were previously sent to the board for review. However, single items can be considered separately and taken off the consent agenda by a single member if they wish to do so. Would anyone like any other consent or any consent agenda item removed?
I think you need to have the walk-on ones separately done.
Afterwards. We're gonna
Okay,
do
so
it
they're
after.
not technically part of the
No,
consent
they're
agenda
not. They're not
tonight.
part of this.
Okay,
They're
I
gonna
wanted
be
to
after.
Make
Okay.
sure that we discuss 5, 6, and 7
Yeah, they will be
particular.
afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so resolutions 4 through 7H, as itemized on the consent agenda, are presented for approval. I'll accept a motion to approve these items. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, VP. Second?
Kathy?
Thank you, Kathy. Board Member Kathy, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion to accept resolutions 4 through 7H carries. We have 7 walk-on resolutions tonight. Superintendent Soler will provide a brief synopsis of 6.
Yeah, so,
6 of them.
yep, first, I want to apologize. I think I did this probably like a couple years back when I brought a walk-on, and then Jamaica said, no walk-on. So we tried to avoid this practice, but since I'm exiting, I said, let me do it one more time. Just kidding,
There
just
you
kidding.
go.
Well, I took advantage of our superintendent appointment and said, let me sneak a couple more on. No, but in all seriousness, sometimes you get this happens, you have to bring an item on or two, just given the timeline of other things that are occurring in the district, and I don't have the authority to do some of these appointments or approvals. So the first walk-on is an agreement with JCCA, which is the Jewish Child Care Association. This is for a student placement. We've been waiting for a placement for this student, so it's really needed, which is why we have to get this. The sooner the board approves it, the faster we can get the student placed. So that's really important for our student support services and for our family that we're trying to help. The second one is an appointment for a law firm of Bonds, Shonik, and King. And we did talk to our attorneys as well as this, Honeywell, so they are aware of this. They technically are the board-appointed attorney, but we also spoke to our former attorney, Harris Beach. The individual who we worked with, Howard Goldsmith, is retiring, and this comes with a strong recommendation from him to continue this work. This is going to support our special education and student support services matters, and so that's why we're asking for this emergency appointment of this law firm. And the other items that you see, 3, 4, 5, and 6, these are all part of Kane and Pleasant Valley. One is a seeker resolution, which is part of the new construction at Kane and Pleasant Valley. This new construction is not covered under the original seeker, which we did explain on our February 7th board meeting that Terry presented, letting you guys know that this was going to be coming down the road. Sometimes it takes a little time to get the legal paperwork, and so that's why we're here. So there's a resolution of necessity, and authorizing a proposition, and a supplemental bond resolution, which are all part of that bundle. And then the 7th item on the walk-on is the agreement with the next superintendent of schools, Dr. Carlos Cotto. So that's a quick high level, but if there's more specific questions, Terry's here for any of the other items in
Board
3, 4,
Member
5.
Kathy?
Excuse me. I had questions about, I guess I want to understand resolution 5 and 6. Are those 2 different propositions that will be on the ballot, or is it one for the $6 million? Or could you just kind of give me a little bit more background there?
Terry, if you can just come up here as a mic.
We love hearing your voice, Terry.
Pull that podium back a little bit too, if you don't mind.
A bit too close for us.
Yeah. I love you, but not that much.
Yeah, they're going to be 2 separate voting items, propositions on the board. I mean,
The May vote.
yeah, the May vote, sorry.
So it's the $300 million that we approved, the community approved and so on last May, still stands. $6 million of this will come from the capital reserve, Is that for the Kane, or is it 6 million and
It's-
then another 6
It's
million?
part of the
for-
300 million. Originally, we were going to pay for the Pleasant Valley
Right.
addition to the cafeteria with school lunch fund, child nutrition, but they don't allow new additions. So when we did the original SECRA, it did not include new additions. There's a different environmental level for those. So by adding on the new addition to the Pleasant Valley kitchen, we needed to include that in the $300 million vote. 300 million wasn't included originally, so it's just basically authorizing us to use part of that money that we already been approved for the Pleasant Valley work.
Okay.
And then the Keene was already, that's just a secret because, again, we weren't aware at the time that we were actually gonna do an addition to that building, so that's the same.
So what's the difference with this 294 and the 6 million? What?
That was was voted on by the public, that we had a 294, and then the other 6 million was from our capital reserve fund that we were using to fund the $300 million. So that's not changing at all, it's just what was on last year's budget
Okay.
vote.
So this is just clarifying?
Clarifying the
for
secret more,
voters
yeah,
the-
the clarifying the secret more than anything, New York State, that allow us to do the additions that were not a part of the original secret. But it's not borrowing any more money, not going out to do any more additional
No
work. of
tax
mo-
effect, no,
Exactly.
nothing
Yep,
like that.
It's just more, New
everything.
York State requirements to have the proper seeker passed, because you voted on the seeker prior, part of that original proposition, but did not include new additions.
So
It
the
was
Mount
mostly
Pleasant, I'm sorry, the Pleasant Valley,
School lunch.
additional work,
Yep.
school lunch, is now included in the 300
Yes.
million,
Yep.
as well as the addition to Kane
Exactly.
that we need.
Yep, the secret that we needed to pass prior now is included by them passing it.
Okay,
In
thank,
May.
thank you
Yep.
for clarifying that.
Small.
Board Member Jamaica?
I don't know if you have to come back, Terry. I don't know if you do. So the language that says, the district prepared an environmental assessment form, that was necessary because it's a new addition. If I'm reading it correctly, we've assessed that there's not a significant environmental impact. How do we make that decision?
Engineers, architects.
Yeah,
there's
a whole process, they reporting
not just
mechanism,
us.
they test the soil, they do all kinds of stuff, but this is the resolution that allows that.
I get that we're doing the
Yeah.
resolution so that we can move it forward and it's on the ballot.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure I heard and that everyone else heard out loud,
Yep.
that it wasn't just, hey, we said it's fine,
No,
and
no.
so there's not an environmental impact, as opposed to there's an actual process, because this just says, we did an assessment form.
Right.
And it doesn't specify how that happened. And I do think it's important to be clear that there's a process that was followed to ensure there's not some significant environmental impact.
Yeah, and March 20th, they are gonna come back to provide us Schenectady Revitalization Project update. We'll make sure they emphasize what that process maybe looks like,
Thank you.
specifically around Kane, because Kane is the
A very
one
important
school
building.
of that. Yeah, very important, but also it's the first elementary that will have an addition added as part of the plans.
Thank you, Board Member Jamaica. Any other questions? Okay. I make a motion to waive the 48-hour rule for 7 walk-on resolutions. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Board Member Amanda, and thank you for the second, Vice President Nohalani. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries to waive the 48-hour rule for 7 walk-on resolutions. I present to you a motion to amend the agenda and add the following item or information. A resolution for a student placement out of district placement, and this is the JCC resolution that Superintendent Soled mentioned. May I have a motion?
Kathy?
Oh, thank you, Board Member Kathy. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Vivian. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries for a student placement out of district. Number 2, I present to you a motion to amend the agenda and add the following item or information. A resolution appointing the law firm of Bond, Shonek, and King as legal counsel. May I have a motion? Thank you, Board Member Kathy. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Vivian. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries to add Bond, Shonek, and Kings as legal counsel. This is number 3. I present to you a motion to amend the agenda and add the following item or information, secra resolution. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank
Amanda.
you, Board Member Amanda. Second?
Second?
Thank you, Vice President Nohalani. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The secra resolution motion carries. Number 4, I present to you a motion to amend the agenda and add the following item or information, specifying the necessities for a capital improvement project. May I have a motion? Thank you, Board Member Erica. Second? Thank you, Board Member Kathy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries to specify the necessities for a capital improvement project. Number 5, I present to you a motion to amend the agenda and add the following item or information, authorizing a proposition to be presented to the voters at the annual district meeting. May I have a motion?
So moved?
Thank you, VP. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Vivian. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries to authorize the proposition. Number 6, I present to you a motion to amend the agenda and add the following item or information, supplemental bond resolution expanding a capital improvement project. May I have a motion?
Move, Kathy.
Thank you, Board Member Kathy. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Board Member Vivian. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries to waive the 48-hour rule. Sorry. The motion carries for the supplemental bond resolution. Resolution 7. I present to you a motion to amend the agenda and add the following item or information. A resolution to appoint Dr. Carlos M. Cotto Jr. as the Superintendent of Schenectady City Schools. May I have a motion?
So moved?
So, thank you, VP. Second, Vivian, Board Member Vivian. All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, I said aye.
Oh, my.
Like, I would say-
Sorry, I said aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Dr. Carlos M. Cotto Jr. is the Superintendent of Schenectady Schools. Congratulations.
All right, I'm going to take one more crack at this. And I did get some critiques, so I'm going to make sure that I, my wife is my best friend and best critic. Love her. So good evening, board members and our community as a whole. I stand here today deeply honored, blessed, and excited to accept the position of superintendent. I am grateful for the trust and confidence you have placed in me, and I am committed to serving our students, educators, staff, and community with dedication, integrity, and passion. First and foremost, I want to express my gratitude to the Board of Education for their thoughtful consideration and for entrusting me with this important leadership role. I am eager to work collaboratively with each of you to advance the goals and priorities of our district and to ensure that every student receives a high-quality education that prepares them for success in school and in life. To the dedicated educators and staff members of our school district, I want to thank you. Your tireless dedication to our students is inspiring, and I am honored to join you in this important work. Together, we will continue to create a safe, supportive, and inclusive learning environment where every student feels valued, respected, and empowered to achieve their full potential. To the parents, guardians, and families of our students, I recognize the vital role you play in your child's life, in their education, and I am committed to fostering strong partnerships with you. Your involvement and engagement are essential to the success of our students, and I look forward to working closely with you to ensure that every child receives the support and resources they need to thrive. And to our students, I want you to know that you are the heart of everything we do. Your dreams, your aspirations, and your potential are what drives us forward each and every day. And I'm committed to creating learning experiences that are engaging, challenging, and meaningful, and to provide you with the opportunities and supports you need to succeed both in and out of the classroom. As we embark on this journey together, I am guided by a deep belief in the transformative power of education. I believe that every child deserves access to high-quality education that unlocks their potential, ignites their curiosity, and prepares them to become lifelong learners and engaged citizens. I am committed to advancing equity and excellence in education and to ensuring that all students have the opportunity to succeed, regardless of their background or circumstances. In the days, weeks, and months ahead, I look forward to listening, learning, and collaborating with each of you to build a brighter future for our district. Together we will strive to create a district that is characterized by excellence, equity, and innovation, and that prepares our students to thrive in a rapidly changing world. Thank you once again for this incredible opportunity. I am confident that together we will achieve great things for our students and community. And as shared, we are Schenectady. We are resilient. We are stronger together. We are Schenectady Rising. Thank you. And Johanna and Joyce, I'm looking forward to working with you.
So I do want to share a few words, and I'm going to kind of rewind. This board has been, and I am going to use the word, amazing. I get teased for saying amazing a lot, but I really mean it when I say it. We have had some really, really good conversations, and many of you in the audience and also out there have heard many of our conversations. We are a board that are very passionate. We're very candid. We're very honest. And we want to make sure we do the right by our district. And in doing that, we wanted to make sure when we had these conversations that everyone had a voice. And even though we are sometimes at different ends of the spectrum in terms of our views, that's what makes us such a strong board. And I really want all of you to hear that, because we are who we are because of the diversion or the diverse types of viewpoints that come to the board. Now, why am I saying that? Because as we were going through the superintendent search, we had some really good conversations that led us to think about a lot of different things and what would be best for Schenectady. And in doing that, we talked about the pros. We talked about the cons. But then we realized that you were the pro. You are what we need in Schenectady. Many of us, or all of us, have seen you out in the community and the things that you do in the community and how you engage with the community, how you engage with the students, how you are willing to listen and to be heard, and you are willing to hear people, and that's huge. You know, we have looked and observed so many things from you, and we're lucky because many times when you do a superintendent search, you have the interview, but you don't really know the person, but we knew you. And I want you to know that, and you've seen our board, like if we made this decision, we mean it. So we thank you. We are so proud to have you. We're so proud to have him. And we thank you for also supporting him, because I know this is going to be a lot of work and he's going to need you by him, which you're always by him, he tells us. So, so thank you so much. And I do want to thank again the ELT team, all of you, because you've been through this process. I mean, we've been through this together type of thing. And as I mentioned in the other session, we all had informal conversations, and we appreciate that, because you could have said, I don't think so, but you didn't. So I and the board, we really appreciate you. So from the bottom of my heart to the entire board, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome to your superintendent position.
Seat is nice and warm, brother.
Congratulations. Wish we could make a toast or something. Okay, so let's welcome CFO Galuli, who will be providing our second budget presentation. Welcome.
Board President, while Terry comes up to that, do just want to recognize Dr. Cotto's going to leave. He's going to celebrate his mom's in town, his aunt from his mother-in-law. Those women, they are here to celebrate their baby boy here. And his wife, they're ready to eat and celebrate. So congratulations, Carlos. Feel free to leave. We're going to keep on. We'll hold it down for you, all right?
Enjoy, and thank you for coming, family. Have a good evening. Thank you. Thank you.
Karen, they may want to speak to him in the hallway. I'm not sure if the media will want to talk to him or not. Okay. Never mind. All right, Terry, no pressure now. It's on you.
What are you talking about? All this energy in the room? Terry's ready. Budget
It's been a long day, so we'll make
Budget
this as quick as we can, quick as possible. There's more to follow in the, coming up, but this is just the next step in the process. Tonight, we're gonna mostly review like the FTEs, our vacancies throughout the district, get a little quick update on the financial and the budget gap. As you remember last meeting, we discussed the enrollment in each building, approximately 9,000 students. We talked about the foundation aid increase, the impact of the new formula that the governor proposed. There has not been any updates to that. And then we went over the budget development process, and we are still in the middle of that development process. Next week, or the week after, we have our meetings with each individual principal, one-to-one meetings to review their staffing levels and their building budgets with them. So at the next meeting will be more information in regards to the expenditure side of it. But I just wanted to share tonight, basically the FTEs, the vacancies that we're currently facing, what we have in the budget, and the tax cap. Again, our budget is always done with our pillars in mind. And, you know, as I mentioned previously, the New York State budget, there has been no new developments. Kathy mentioned she went to School Boards Association, where was it, the Superintendent's Association this past weekend, and I know there's maybe some updates for some talk and some advocacy to get that fully funded and to see, but really there has been no new developments published yet. We're heading that. The district's recommendation for the 24-25 is no tax increase is planned for the 24-25 budget, as long as the level of our foundation aid and everything else maintains the same of what our early projections are. And our 24-25 budget maintains all of our current programs and staffing levels. So like the ELT, the STEAM camps, the summer enrichment programs, before school. And if anybody has any questions throughout this, feel free to interrupt and ask.
Yeah, and just, I'll jump in here and just say that we're operating as a flat in terms of programs, initiatives, staffing. But obviously, the board can always provide input, guidance if there's something that you see throughout the presentation today. Something, obviously, you heard Student Support Services present historically, you've heard Teaching and Learning present. As you hear different divisions and there's things that you want us to either add to the budget, just know that we are not operating from a additive standpoint. We are operating from a maintenance standpoint, just because everyone's talking about potentially what it looks like the following year. Although our foundation formula wasn't given us fully, it was still a positive for us in Schenectady compared to other communities who have seen a negative reduction to their budget and have been harmed as opposed to been held harmless. So I will just say we are in a really good spot, but no good CFO will let you spend more than you have, knowing that what's coming is going to probably potentially put us in a tough spot. So we're trying to get ahead of that by maintaining everything we're doing versus adding a lot of other things. So we will listen to the board as we go through the process, but know that we're going to push back a little bit to say, well, what will we change, or what will we look to adjust if there's something that you want to add or don't see. But I will tell you, we are very resource rich. And when you look at our staffing levels in comparison to similar size city school districts. And so I say that, not to say that we don't deserve more, or we don't need more, but I just say that just to keep you in context of what's out there. So Terry, I'll let you proceed, but we are going to operate hopefully at zero again, and then also maintain things on there. So.
And we have added, like, let's remember over the last 2 or 3 years since I started, you know, the parent liaisons in every building, the assistant principals at all the buildings. Librarians in every building, an additional IPS worker for the main offices, in addition to all the social workers and school counselors at every building. So we have added, and we are able to maintain those, even with losing that federal funding that we've had, because as we discussed, the increase in our foundation aid, in addition to the federal funding, we have received, you know, $15 million each year over the last 3 years, and now we're at that level where the funding is leveling off, but that's why we're able to sustain that by adding those throughout the last few years. This is a breakdown of all of our FTEs throughout each department, and I have detailed as we go through the slides. I'm not going to touch on every single one individually, but obviously the more important ones, the teachers. We currently have 778 teachers within the building, which 48 vacancies throughout. Majority of those are in the secondary level. Special education, 180 FTEs, and we have about 12 vacancies with those departments. Now I know, my colleagues here are probably sitting, well, I don't have 12, I have 5, and there has to be a cutoff point where we stand, what we currently have staffing, and that's why we're going to have those staffing meetings with each principal individually to see if there's additional needs. But where we currently are and what we're projecting, like retirements and other things, they're all in the budget. All these positions are budgeted for. These are all just the general fund positions. They do not include anybody who's paid out of grants, and I'll touch on those. But basically, those 160 vacant positions will be included in the budget. So if we do fill those throughout the 24-25 school year, we'll have the money available for those.
And just because I'm sure the board will ask, we operate the district even though those are vacancies, and we find really creative ways, and we have provisions in our contract where teachers can pick up an additional period. We have the ability for paras to cover classrooms. So we do operate. Sometimes this isn't optimal, but we are still able to provide services. So even though we budgeted these, we have to find creative ways. And Shannon will tell you that she's out there pounding the pavement. In the last 3 weeks, she's been out, her and her team, and many of folks from teaching and learning, student support services. There's just not a large bench out there of people in the profession as we try to get. But we are budgeting for these to be filled, hopefully, and so that's a really important point as we move forward.
And then starting with the district-wide offices, now these may be individuals that work currently at 108, but they may also be working within the buildings, but they are housed basically as a district office staff member for the few slides.
And I want to congratulate the board. You filled one of the vacancies under the superintendent of schools. And so congratulations. We'll be shifting
was a vacancy.
I know that. It was projected to be vacant.
Yeah,
So.
those aren't. So if you have any questions, again, I'm not going to go line by line for time reasons, but you can see each department, superintendent of schools, innovation, equity, and engagement department. Sure.
So, elephant in the room. Are we sure that the total number of positions budgeted for, that we still have vacancies listed for, is that an adequate number to meet the ever-increasing needs, such as for special education, student support services, or is that like the baseline minimum
No.
just to keep us going?
In addition to like what we currently have, but special needs, I will put in, and there is currently like an additional 10 one-to-one paraprofessionals. I will have additional special ed teachers within the budget in case a new program needs to open up to provide for the current students. So there are not just the vacant positions, but also some additional positions in case those are needed throughout the school year.
Yeah, so I would say we staff based on mandates and compliance. And then if there's a need to go above and beyond, our students with disabilities, the IEP drives programming, which drives staffing. I think your real question is that still enough?
Yeah.
And in some cases, I would say, given our community, probably never enough to have, we would love to have everyone have one-on-one. We have many kids who may not be classified, who could use just an additional support. We would love our counseling ratio to be 1 to 50, right? We would love those things. So I would say we never are at an optimal state. I think we're in a pretty good spot. We're aligned to a lot of national standards when it comes to ratios. When it comes to student support services, Andrea's team really drives through the IEP, and we build in, we don't like Andrea to know this all the time, but there are some additional cushions of, there's an additional 10 more paras. If you need to have 10, if you need to add paras throughout the year, we've budgeted for it. If you need to create a new self-contained program, we've budgeted it. So we've tried to build that cushion for us so that she has the freedom to create programming as needed if we can't offer it externally. So, but your real question, no, there's never enough to give us truly what we need. And I don't know what that threshold would be, but we try to figure out what state ratios are, what national ratios are, and we've worked really hard over the past 3 years to get there. So like confidently, I can say as a superintendent, as your current superintendent and your that we have done it with like counselors, we've used the 1 to 250 model, which is a national model that says you should have one counselor for every 250 kids. The community that I'm going to doesn't even touch that. They're like 1 to 600. So just to tell you that I think Schenectady's in a really good spot in some of these other areas. But ultimately, I would say I would take triple what we have because I know sometimes the need is so significant.
So yes, and to your point, there is a national average and a state average. However, just because something doesn't average doesn't mean that it's adequate or sufficient or effective.
I agree.
So I just didn't want us to get lost in the sauce when looking at averages. And I would assume that some of our boots on the ground might feel a little bit differently. Well, I don't care what the national average
Right,
is,
right.
I'm drowning here now. So that's why I just wanted us to kind of keep that in mind possibly.
We're not going line by line, it's not a line by line question. But as we're looking at vacancies in general, and I feel like either I've asked this before, maybe somebody else has, are we finding that certain staffing positions have greater fluctuations than others? And then how are we addressing that? So if, I don't know, paraprofessionals have a high fluctuation rate, then how can we address that? Glad to hear we're creating a cushion, but also still concerned, as well as Vivian, that we don't know what our cushion should be, right? And we do have a reserve that if there was some mandate, because if, I'm making up a random number, no one take this literally. If 100 children showed up tomorrow and needed one-to-ones, we would have to give them one-to-ones.
Correct.
And as more children access services, more parents become aware of what services are available, and that those assessments happen, we very well could be in a scenario. So glad there's a cushion, but also I know we have a reserve, and when it's mandatory, it's mandatory. That's all it is. It's mandatory. But yeah, fluctuations, how are we handling that?
Yeah, so I won't steal all of Shannon's thunder. She will be coming down to present human resources, and there's a strong focus on retention along with recruitment. But we try really hard to focus on the positions that are a little more fluid and volatile in terms of there is a lot of turnover, and paraprofessionals is probably one of the areas where we see that. There was a conversation today at principals meetings to really push our principals to figure out, you know, before we go to termination, let's focus on coaching. Maybe we need a different location for the person. But I think what I want to be careful is we always want quality though. And I don't want to sacrifice retention over quality. And so we're trying to figure out what that balance is for us, but I will tell you, it is a challenge for us. Retention in some of the entry-level positions into the district are sometimes, same thing with the facilities, our custodial staff, making sure that our cleaners are stable versus the high, because we do see a lot of turnover in cleaners, security monitors, safety monitors, paraprofessionals. So we are constantly trying to figure out other ways, and sometimes it's just giving a person a different location to say, you know what, maybe not a right fit in this setting, let's try over here. But that's something that we've had, just as today, it was a conversation with principals around this. So we've got work to do, I think, and there's still more work to do. And I know that Shannon will focus more on her efforts around retention along with the executive team, because we do know it's a challenge area, and there is a shortage. You know, you see the vacancies by some of these positions.
And because we want those quality people and keeping quality people, I'm sure that y'all are already thinking about, are folks really aware of what they're signing up for? That when they get hired for a position, especially some that you've already mentioned, how can we better facilitate that conversation up front so that there's that real awareness of, hey, this is the day-to-day job, so there's not that, oh, it's a surprise, gosh, I didn't know this was part of my job as well. And then hopefully that culture and climate that we've been working on, right, allows for that environment. And I know y'all are hard at work. I'm not saying you're not. I know you are.
No, but I think you make a good point. I should have mentioned this when I was saying my earlier comments. Actually, about a week ago, Andrea, Shannon, and myself talked about a paraprofessional onboarding process, because sometimes in the paraprofessional world, we are like, hey, you report to this day, this place, and there's an assumption that people walk in. And so we've recognized that. And so we're talking about how do we create a standard onboarding process before we send them to the building to say, this is what you're going to need to do. And so that is something that we're talking about, and we're just trying to figure out what does that look like. So we do recognize that.
In our recent negotiations, we also increased, their salaries. We give them the educational opportunity to advance placement. So some have already taken advantage of that, from a paraprofessional to a teaching assistant. So those are opportunities to grow also that we allow.
Yeah, and some of those vacancies occur that, but more to come. Shannon and her team will be presenting, and they will
Yeah.
focus on recruitment, retention, and a variety of other data. So Shannon's taking notes.
Again, district-wide offices, more of the business office, human resources, communications, technology, these positions. We currently have one vacancy, accounts payable, because we added a new purchasing assistant, promoted somebody within, so we have that vacancy in the business office. I have to plug that line by line, because we need somebody.
These are recruiting.
Yeah. Teaching and learning, the district-wide office, all the assistant directors, are full right now. Our instructional technology coaches, these are 3 new coaches that we put in last year within the budget. The 3 instructional technology teachers that go throughout all the buildings to assist the teachers with the technology throughout the buildings. And then the student support services, again, they may be housed in district offices, but obviously they are in the buildings on a regular basis. But these are more of the management positions within that department. And Andrea could speak more to that when she reviews her budgets. But, again, restorative practice specialists, those are new positions that we have been adding as we find the need basis for those. We have 10 of those currently. The 10 student engagement and attendance specialists, district-wide, not to mention the ones we actually have in the buildings that we'll come across. So these are all the positions related to the student support that are district-wide type positions. And then our operation and management staff, when I first got here, there's always seemed to be an issue or concern to maintaining staff. I know with the improvements that Mr. Dangler has done within his department and his 2 new assistant directors, they have done a great job with keeping our levels of our staffing, and you could tell the appearance of the buildings and some of the work that is being done by the staff in the buildings has made such a great improvement. We have added a lot of maintenance mechanics, especially like the grounds workers. I think when we first started here, we had like 2 grounds workers for 17 buildings. Now we may have like 7 or 8. So we definitely have added some licensed positions and some great additions to the building level.
Terry, I just have one question. Just because I've been asked this quite a bit, when the positions are posted, right, they are posted within the district first, correct? Or is it open? So like when there's a position open,
We send out every time the position's posted, it goes internally, everyone can see it internally.
okay. And then when does it become a position that's external?
It depends on the contract. Some have an internal posting requirement first and then external, but
Yeah.
all positions are posted, so our internal candidates can apply, so they see it.
Okay, yep. And then that's sent, because I've seen it via email to everyone.
Yeah, some require like a 5-day internal posting before it goes public. And then, right, and so then if it is, then her team will just post it to external.
Yeah, and then when you're referring to the contract, the collective bargaining contract.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Again, new department, this is an addition that when you talk about when I first started here 2 years ago, we did not have a safety climate, school climate.
Safety people, so they were safe, like hall monitors with the title. So we just literally shifted that. So I just want to be clear, it wasn't a 86 brand new.
Yeah.
We literally took our paras and shifted them over. So the division is new, but a lot of the people moved over and some of them moved into other areas. So I just want to make that distinction. It wasn't 86 brand new to the budget. It was more like shifting, so it's clear.
Yeah, majority were shifting, yeah.
Right.
And then the 10 district-wide, those are, the supervisors of those 2, like maybe secondary and elementary that go and visit each building, make sure everything's okay. And then to the building level, administration, those are obviously all the principals at each building. We currently have 2 vacant positions. One's an additional position. As we grow these programs that we've added, like the big picture, we are gonna post an assistant principal for that program. So it's just adding on, so that's currently vacant, so that's why you'll see that. And then all the other positions. These are more of the support staff within the building. The clerical IPS, we've added all the new additional IPS in each main office. And then the teacher's assistants, last year, that was added to the budget. Those are basically all fairly new positions. We had a couple, but we made it a priority to put a couple of them in each building. And then same thing with the building substitutes. Those are basically new positions that we did not have previously that we are hiring building substitutes to fill when teachers may call in during those days. So those are basically kind of last year new positions and maintaining those levels.
What is IPS?
They're secretaries, but what's IPS stand
It's
for?
like information processing secretary or something, or specialist, yeah.
Thank you.
And there's different levels, 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I didn't know what that was.
We forgot. No acronyms, no new ones.
You can
I
have
try. There's only so many room, on the slides. And then, additional support, family engagement support, parent liaison, 1 or 2 in each building with the larger buildings. Paraprofessional attendants are at every building and a couple at the bigger buildings. And then we also have 3 designated paraprofessional LT for suspension students. And then teaching and learning, the instructional coaches, 18. We're obviously not filling those until we are able to fill the teaching level, but we do have some throughout the buildings. That does not include additional 6 that are FTEs within our title grants. So it's not a grant that's going to be going away. It's either Title I or Title II. Teachers, pre-K through 5th grade, the UPK and the paraprofessional UPK are both grant-funded positions. And then obviously the level. And we don't have any current vacancies within the elementary level. We will have some as people retire. We have some notification. I think it's currently 13, 14 throughout the district, but they're currently in the budget and not showing as vacant yet until those vacancies are done. So we're pretty good with those positions. And the common branch, those are additional positions that we added last year that we're maintaining, 19 common branch teachers throughout the elementary schools.
Yeah, and I would say it's a 100% fill rate, really pretty much UPK through 5th grade, which is a big deal for our community. So there are no, so
And keep in mind, the class sizes are, less than
they were historically.
were based on our contractual. And then additional teaching and learning for the 6th through 8th grade, and then the breakdown, and you can see some of the vacancies within 7th grade science, ELA 8th grade, and ELA science, 8th grade. And then a lot of the vacancies that we are seeing in the teaching and learning are more of the specialized areas. This list here does not include 53 FTE grant positions, and those are mostly the reading teachers that are included. So those are basically paid out of title funding. That's not part of the federal funding that's going to be going away. It's current renewable title funding every time.
Just acronym AIS is Academic Intervention Services. Just make sure, and obviously everyone knows IB, I think, International Baccalaureate Program, and AVID is Advancement via Individual Determination. Pretty good, Mr. Green, huh? And I'm not even at the high school.
And these are all programs that we'll review during our staffing meetings with the principals, the one-to-one basis. And then all the specialized areas again, the art, and then obviously, not obvious, but world language is an issue right now with 5 vacancies for those additional world language positions, which I know we've been targeting that when they go on their recruitments, but that's one of the larger areas where we don't, and that's common throughout New York State right now, I believe. And then special education, we have 146 current FTE teachers in special education. We have 9 vacancies, speech therapists, 3 vacancies. Again, they may not be full-time vacancies. Some speech therapists are shared within the buildings. So, again, we'll review all these positions, make sure we're adequately staffed throughout the district. To answer your question about paraprofessionals, we have 248 FTE paraprofessionals right now throughout the district that are working in mandated special education classrooms. And then we have 58 one-to-one paraprofessionals that are with students. And then student support services, as we mentioned earlier, the level of social workers, school counselors, psych, I believe is higher than most area school districts that they have. It's not a easy, number of students divided by, because it's those students that need those services. So I'm sure Andrea will have that data if you want to look down and see what is our student to FTE ratio for those programs. But these are the total amount we have throughout the district. And then nurses, we still have 5 vacant, which is always a push to try to get nursing into the buildings. Adult education, the instructors, we have 18 of them. Currently have 6 vacant. And then we have the tutors that are FTE that are hourly. We have 18 FTE for the adult education / tutors. So how's that all bundled in? This is the revenue that we provided last meeting that shows you the breakdown of all the state aid. We did get, the way the state issues their foundation aid, the governor comes out with their proposal, but updates to the database based on like our beds day, our actual enrollment, and other factors that may contribute to our foundation aid prior to the final foundation aid. Our actually foundation aid went up 1.5 million projected for 24-25 in the February database from when I presented last time. So our overall state aid, if you say that's not the same, I'm sure you all remember what it was last time when I presented. It was like 205, now 202, now it's at 205, but that's basically updating the state database. So we're looking at an increase just on the revenue side, which obviously your expenses are going to match your revenues at the end of this, but we haven't, broken everything down. Our budget's going to look like a $274 million budget right now, just based on what we're providing on revenue. The number I want to point out is like the fund balance, the 6.7 million. Based off of last year, it was 10 million. As you know, we had included in that fund balance was the money to buy Kane Elementary, 530 Liberty, which was a great place today. If just sitting there, seeing that and what it's come to be and what it's going to come even more, it's just something that we need as a district. We'd be crowded in a school somewhere. So doing that, the 6.7, so that when I say like a budget gap, that's basically the money that we will need to reserve from our current funds that we're saving in the current year to fund next year's expenditures. And again, there's positions in there, there's other things that we know that we need to do in the buildings, that we added into that, but pretty much we're looking at a $274 million budget rolling forward. And again, our fund balance is going to grow again this year. We still have those federal funds, ARP, that we're paying for a lot of these items. They're also in the budget for 24-25, so it's going to allow us to generate more fund balance to apply for the following year budget, and that's just going to roll for a few years as we build our fund balance and have that stuff available going forward. So that's how we're sustaining these programs right now. But, again, being fiscal responsible, we obviously can't use $6 million of fund balance every year, but we do have that capabilities now. And like I said, we have programs that are being able to fund, but we have also all those additional positions that we're still able to fund based off of our savings from what we're doing. And let's be honest, like 200 positions, if we don't fill all those next year, 100 employees, just throw out a number, like the average saving, like per employee that's budgeted, if you don't fill them, that's gonna add to your fund balance because you have the revenue to generate for that.
The other thing too is we were real intentional in not putting FTEs in the ARPA. So even if that money, because that money will go away, I think it's October, is the.
Yes.
Once Taryn
We don't
doesn't have to do a form anymore, is that
I'm
October?
still waiting for that.
The smart thing we did here, and then there are certain communities that put FTEs in there, like full-time employees in ARPA. We didn't put anything, so as that money goes away, we won't basically have to move bodies or cover that cost. We spent it on facilities, programming, things like that nature, so we were smart by doing so. And what we're trying to do is get as much as we can out of that money as we head into this next fall to generate some additional savings and revenue for us moving forward.
So what were the 53 grant people in that little footnote off to the right there, that?
Title I.
Reading people.
Title I, we get, I think, like $8
Title
million
I, Title II,
for
Title
reading
III.
teachers, additional
Right,
teachers,
right.
Special education, Section 611 IDA. We pay people out of that for special education.
Was that ESSA grant?
Nope, they're actually Title I, Title II are just regular grants
Yeah,
that
these
we
are-
get every year. We're able to pay for those. It
These
just
are
rolls over every year.
reoccurring federal or state grants, so these were none of the, like ESSA,
I
CARES,
thought Title I
CIRSA.
was part of ESSA, and and
No,
and this
no.
kind of thing?
Title I's something that we get the federal grant. You said last meeting that they were looking to cut title
Looking at
grants, so.
cutting that, yes.
So that would be something that
She
ever
fixed it,
does
though.
come
She went
across.
lobbying.
Yeah. Took them to the side.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those title grants are something that's been funding school districts for those
Since
programs.
1965.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we pay money out of.
So those monies, those title monies
Burner.
are not shown in this?
No,
They're
nope.
not
This
part
is
of
just
the-
general fund, budget vote, what money is gonna come from. Like, our UPK is not included in these numbers. This is just budget vote.
You're good. Yep.
No, you're fine.
They're family. They can have that happen.
I'll let it happen once in a while. A lot going on during this. Foundation aid, again, just a little, I'm getting fancy with my graphs. Just shows you the increase that we have received since since I've been here, but even prior, how it has escalated to where we are now, and how that funding source is going to maintain, hopefully, moving forward with the formula.
Are we considered fully funded? with
We
this-
are,
with this
except,
amount?
yeah, except for about 300, and I think I had $340,000 at the last meeting, that by the new changes the governor made to the formula.
That's all we're short.
Yeah, like 340, yeah.
Yeah, because I know
yeah.
many that are,
Yeah, some are got the no
significantly
harm,
short.
3 million, I've heard all the, yeah, some of the
But
smaller
that's only
schools.
if it stays there with the final
Yeah.
budget.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, the final
And they
budget
don't
changes,
take it
we're
away
gonna
from
gain
us.
like
Hopefully,
about $400,000.
yeah, hopefully. My guess, yeah, that we should get that fully funded. And then, state requirement, if you remember, I always, not forget, but not include, so I'm including how part of our foundation aid, we get this contract for excellence, and what we're doing with that contract for excellence money that's embedded in our foundation aid is an increase from 17 million to 20 million, and we use that C4E money, the abbreviation for contract for excellence, class size reductions, increased student time on task, middle school, high school restructuring with the freshman academy coming up. We're starting that process, and teacher principal quality, basically our professional development of our current staff members. The tax cap, the calculations, if we were to have a tax increase, which we are not, I want to make sure that's very clear, but I just wanted to share the tax cap if we were able to. With the formula, our maximum tax levy increase would be a 3.24% increase, which would generate 1.6 million. This is, I believe, the 6th year in a row where the district has not increased taxes. So, that's quite, something to be said, to the board to see that as needed. But again, sustainability, let's always keep in mind, by not increasing the taxes, you're not losing money, but you're not able to add on to that every year. So next year, if we decide that we need a tax increase, we're gonna base it off of the 51,442, not the 53,109.
I have a question.
Sure.
So yes, we have not had a tax increase in 6 years. I think that is phenomenal, and I would love for us to continue down that road of not increasing the tax responsibility. However, I'm a little concerned. We have a lot of new initiatives in our district, a lot of new programs that we've introduced in a very short period of time. And part of me wonders if down the road, as state and federal funding may shift, it may change. Are we creating a situation where we're kind of sort of building a bubble, and then down the road that bubble may end up collapsing? Is that a possibility? Because I'm not in any way advocating that we increase the tax levy, but what I am saying is, are we able to maintain what it is that we're trying to accomplish currently several years down the road without creating a bubble that can burst?
Yeah, so I'll Terry, you can jump in, but what I would say is we have been real intentional on how we staff, the ratios we use, because we're trying to predict that sustainability. And we do have very healthy reserves. We've been able to keep our reserves healthy to get us through hopefully whatever may come down the road. What I would say is that even if and I want this to be, even if we went out for 3.24%, 1.6 million would not even cover our year-to-year increase from a budget. So that's part of the rationale that I just want to make sure you're aware of. And the majority of our budget, regardless of initiatives or programs, restructuring the high school, moving, big picture learning, is people. And so no matter what we decide to do, programming is still attached to full-time employees. I think about 80-something, 85% of our budget is FTEs.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is not only their salaries, but their benefits. So if we are gonna make a change, it'll be really hard to not impact people if you were gonna get rid of any of the initiatives, because the majority of our budget, regardless of whatever we do, is still people. And so that's the tough part about any of that stuff. But I would tell you that what we've designed is just good schooling. So most of the new programming that we've done is just maybe a change in class size, a change in location. So I'll give you the early college high school, for example, which is Principal Chank down in SUNY Schenectady. That existed, it existed inside the bigger high school. We just moved it down to SUNY Schenectady. And that is run by the P-TECH grant and the Smart Scholars grant. And so a lot of grants allow us to do that innovation. If those grants were to go away, the bigger question is, does the board maintain something of that nature? And then who pays for the tuition costs at SUNY? That would be the real cost. But the reality is we still could create it. We just don't know who, it would be a different piece, a different conversation. Community schools cost us really no money. But what we did was we encouraged the community to come into the schools. We created new partnerships. We invited people in who already had resources and things like that, or we went after grants with them. So that initiative could go away. It probably won't go away because the community is now deeply involved, but that wouldn't cost us anything because we didn't really add anything other than community school coordinators, which are, I think, 4 or 5 FTEs, which we could easily absorb. So we were real intentional around any initiative that we added. I think the bigger question goes back to your earlier question. If you think of like restorative practice specialists, attendance specialists, some of the things that we know are real important initiatives that aren't necessarily attached to an initiative, but attached to student support or attached to, those will be, I think, a bigger and more difficult conversation for us if we get to that point. But I think to our first slide, it says maintains. We've done everything we can to make sure that we could ride this out for a handful of years moving forward, unless something crazy happens with the formula where it goes negative. And, I think Kathy said she's been here since the 190 million days, which you can see is about an $80 million difference from where we are now.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, coming out of the pandemic, spend 3-4 years and getting to the level where we are now. If we're able to provide it now, why not add these things and give our students what they need now? And then when that time comes, if it does come, react to that. But we're not in that place now. But with the next, last 2 years and 3 and 4 years, give them the necessary support that we're able to right now, fiscally responsible, and being aware of what may come. But I think right now we're in a good place by what we've been doing, and with the increases we have and the grant that are paying for a lot of these things also, that we are in a good place right now.
But you're also speaking to, Vivian, the importance of our role as advocates.
Of course.
Because it was, Schenectady has been a leader for a very long time to make sure that our foundation aid was something we received. And for that to happen, the governor talking about changing the foundation aid formula in a way that loses money is problematic, whereas advocates and organizations are fighting to change it in a way that increases foundation aid. We're still facing that same fight, and I would love to go with you to the Capitol and tell them to give us more money. I'm not kidding. I'm being so serious right now, and Erica should come too. Not that everyone else isn't welcome, but it is that part where legislators at the state decide to balance the budget on the backs of our kids.
Yeah.
It only stops when we stop them from doing it, and we will be in that position where we need to make sure we always get the money that we deserve, and we can be fully funded, but we still don't have everything we deserve.
Well, I agree with you 100%. I know the sky is falling.
Oh my gosh, let's go.
I know. But no,
We have until June.
I do entirely agree with you on that. And again, in no way was I ever suggesting that we even consider cut staffing or cut programs or rate. In no way was that a suggestion. As long as that is always at the forefront of our mind when having this discussion, that we can maintain everything that we're trying to do, but also not create a bubble for down the road because we don't know what's going to come down the road. As long as that's at the forefront of the conversation, I'm good with it.
Yeah, we're always keeping
Yeah.
that.
And one of the
It's
important,
called the fiscal cliff.
yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the important roles that we have is to truly advocate with the legislators like Breslin, Stack, Santa Barbara. And we can do that. I can set up, and I know I mentioned in an email that I
Or
can set
whoever's
up.
elected in
Yeah,
November.
whoever's elected, that we can, on a continuous basis, even though we are okay this year, we can still continue to build those relationships with the legislators so that they know, and assemblymen, so that they know, hey, Schenectady, you know, think about us. So let me know, because then I can set up something in the next few weeks, months with them, okay?
The other thing I'd just say, this slide right here is real important to the tax levy conversation that was earlier presented. And I'm not saying that this was a good or bad, but this is the argument people tell you in the fiscal world, is that, in a sense, Schenectady, because we never increased taxes, and we could go up to our tax levy, if we just took our 3.24% as, like, let's just say that was what it was every year, we left like $10 million on the table. People will sometimes, in the business official world and the other world and districts. So just want you guys to know that over the course of the 6 years, we've technically, because we didn't increase, you leave money on the table. That's the argument, and so that it compounds. But that's okay, but I'm just saying, it's only 10 million. Not that 10 million isn't a little bit of money, but it's only 10 million, and we got an influx of like over 30 million over the 2 years when we were fully funded by the formula. So that's why, for a community like Schenectady, the majority of our aid, it doesn't do us any good by going out, because 1% is only $500,000.
And we didn't leave money on the table. We left money in the pockets of the people that need it.
Correct.
Because we are in extreme poverty. We're one of the poorest communities in the state, and we should never be trying to build the school district on the poor in our communities. And that's why the state needs to change the foundation aid formula and give us the money we need.
The tax rate for Schenectady was considerably higher than most of the suburban districts around us. It would be interesting to know how we would compare,
Yeah.
after these 6 years of.
Yeah, I think I
state
did last year
tax.
with the other Schenectady County schools, but I will do it again. I'll
Right.
pull it for you for the next meeting to show you what the other Schenectady County tax rate is every per thousand. I could do that for you.
Yeah, I was curious about that. Because
Absolutely.
that's one of the reasons,
Because they have
a
gone
lot
up.
of people will not even come to Schenectady to buy a house because they say the tax rate is too high.
Yeah, and it's
in the
not
city.
necessarily the schools,
It's
it's
the property.
the city.
It's
Tell them
obscene.
to call Kathy Vogel.
Where was it? And then, you know, again, I don't have I have the breakdown expenses, and that includes all our new FTEs and additional to equal to 274 million. But I will go in more detail on the expenditure side at the next meeting, after we have our staffing meeting, make sure we're staffing correctly. But as you can see, majority of, you know, like we mentioned, general instruction, the benefits piece, special education, transportation. We really need to start bringing transportation to a forefront. Being a city school district, with the miles that they should be walking and crossing the, you know, paths of bringing students to other buildings within the district. So we really need to start looking at that, and the electric bus initiative. I could update you on that.
That's what I was gonna ask you.
Yeah, we have partnered with our vendors and some of the other agencies. We currently are going to sign an agreement. We'll probably bring it to you at the next meeting. Not to get ahead of ourselves, but we just got secured a person who is going to do a electric study for the district, which will be 100 reimbursable from NYSERDA. And basically, we'll go through all of our buildings, identify where the best location would be for charging stations. But again, the impact of that, just the infrastructure, which, yes, there are some programs out there that are funding through NYSERDA and National Grid, funding some of that, but with 44,000 buses, I believe it is, or 45,000, they're looking at a price tag for just buses of like $85 billion. So, you know, we're starting that process, and we have to report on that on an annual basis, and we have partnered, we had applied with our vendors, but then there's that process, you know, if our vendors get the grant and then they buy the buses and then they don't get the contract the following year, what happens with the buses? So we are starting that conversation and going forward.
not to be the moron in the room, but have we seen video footage of these electric vehicles when their lithium batteries just decide one day I'm going to catch on fire and fire trucks don't have the equipment to put the fire out? Are we really considering having a whole fleet of bombs
When-
anywhere near our school buildings?
When it's
Yeah,
mandated,
it's,
and you could
unfortunately, the
lose.
governor has mandated that all schools,
Call
I
Kathy
believe it's
Hochul.
2035, I think is the year.
Yeah,
or something.
2035, but, obviously, we can't go out and buy 100, 200 buses
yeah.
in 1 year, so that process has to start now.
Yeah, I think
so-
what Terry's just saying, stay tuned.
Yeah.
But
more
we
to
are
come.
mandated.
We are aware of all of the stuff on the internet, the research. There are consortiums being built to try to slow down the timeline, to revisit the mandate. There's a lot of advocacy going on around it.
It's the biggest advocacy thing
Yeah.
that happened here in February.
And I was speaking to also just the transportation piece in general. Our transportation budget has grown considerably, with the cost of everything going up and the amount of students that need specialized transportation and, the concern of the walking to school. So that's something that we really have to start paying attention more.
Yeah.
Because we don't necessarily get the aid back for what we're spending, because within New York State guidelines, elementary students should be walking within a mile, and we transport some of those students.
Exactly.
Just as a point of information, it's my understanding that Shen has already done one of these studies with
Yes.
regard to their 250 buses that they
50
put out every single day. And National Grid came back and said they don't have the electric capacity to charge them. They would have to build a charging substation
Yeah.
at the cost of around $30 to $35 million.
Yes.
Yeah, and actually, to your point, Vivian, when Kathy and I met with some of the assemblymen and legislators, they are actually many of them are pushing back. And that's when one of the assemblywomen, she actually told us about the situation that was happening at Shen. So many are fighting against this, or at least, as Terry had mentioned, trying to push it back. Like,
Yeah.
we don't have, we don't have the capability right now, so.
Yeah, and I would say, the stay tuned is real important for the board, and it will be on my list of items for Dr. Cotto as he moves forward, because there has to be a conversation at some point. This is what really Terry's trying to allude to. Our policy, our transportation practices, gonna need to start having a conversation. And I'm not saying that children don't deserve the transportation, but we just have to figure out what is the appropriate threshold, because we are providing more transportation for more students that we do not receive aid on. So that's why that's real important. Technically, our responsibility is to transport, I believe it's 1.5 miles is our threshold.
That's our policy, but the New York
New York
State
State is 2
guidelines
miles.
is 2 miles, I
Yeah.
think, for elementary or something like that.
So what I would say is, if we're gonna do that, that's fine. It's just, that's another thing as you think about long-term fiscal sustainability. The amount of money we spend on the budget, and like you said, it's 8% of our budget is on busing. 8%. And so then you add specialized busing, then you add charter school, then you add parochial that we are also
CTE
responsible for,
programs, yep.
CTE programs. So that's just something to think about, again, down the road, but will come up either through policy, our transportation policy, and then also our expenses. So we want to point that out because we have to point it out. It's one of the larger expenses. It's almost 10% of our budget.
It's $20 million.
Terry, in the benefits, does that have the latest ERS and TRS rates?
Yes, yep.
So those are final for
Mhm.
the,
And
what
we're-
are they?
Yeah, you have to ask me off the top of my head.
We'll get it back to you. We'll get it.
Yeah,
from
yeah,
you.
I'll get that, next meeting, they'll be on there. I think I may have showed it, last meeting, I think I showed you I think the TRS is 10 point.
I was like 10 something.
10.02, and the ERS, I think, went up 1.2, or 2.1%, that's like at 12, something like that, or 13. But I'll have that for
ERS?
ERS went up above the allowable 2%.
Taryn can look
So
it
we
up.
were able to use that adjustment.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
14.1 and 10.7.
Yeah, something like that,
There
there
you
you
go.
go. Yep.
This is a test for Taryn.
And then it does include,
It's on our evaluation.
our benefits do include the increase in health insurance, a projected amount. We're still getting that finalized. We just had RFP process for a health insurance carrier. So until that's finalized, and then once we select the vendor, we should have final rates for that. But the projected increase is included in this, so it might change a little bit.
Thank you.
We're not gonna be able to make dessert with Dr. Cotto if we keep this.
You might make it. You might make it.
And then moving forward, you know, we're going to look at the 24-25 final New York State budget. Obviously, hopefully they pass it by the deadline. Finalize building budgets. Again, as I mentioned previously, those meetings are coming up. BOCES services, final commitment. You know, they're in the current budget as projected, but, you know, if we want to add more and what we currently purchase. And then our fund balance. We look to see, project where we are at the end of this year, what our savings will be in the current year budget from, you know, not filling some of those full-time vacancies and other areas that we have, and then utilizing, maximizing the ARP funds. Any questions?
Before we, board members ask questions, I do want to thank board member, student member, Zohana and Joyce. At this time, you're excused from the meeting. Have a good evening.
Thank you for sitting through that.
Yes.
We understand.
We have lots of choices.
And I will later tell you what those other acronyms stand for, because I had to ask anyways.
These meetings are not always this riveting.
Don't forget your phones.
I'm taking offense to that.
One of the biggest
I
roles.
don't have a question, it's just a quick statement, because we were talking about transportation, and we know we don't have walkable communities. And that's something we've been focusing on, making sure our littles and even our bigs can safely get to school. And it gives me hope that our community partnerships will hopefully help assist us in that need, including the city of Schenectady always says, we love being in partnership with the school district. We're so excited. Well, let's talk about these sidewalks, guys. How can we make sure the sidewalks are even and safe and shoveled and all of those things, so that our littles could safely get to school and not have to stay home because they can't get down the street?
Back to that transportation point, kind of stole my thunder a little bit, because I would think that transportation availability will go hand in hand with our attendance initiative. Can't have one without the other.
Go hand in hand with what?
Attendance.
Attendance.
Yeah, again, we can do it, just gotta be willing to pay for it. And we want you to understand, right now, it's $20 million of our budget. The more buses we add, the more it's gonna come. And just know that right now, only a percentage of that 20 million we get back in aid. So we are, you know, spending more than we get back in reimbursement.
I think our transportation aid is like $12 million, 13 million. So we're losing 7 million just by transporting within the guidelines that we're not, because our aid is, I think, 90% for transportation. So it should be higher out the 20 million. But since they call it a decimal, every kid, how far you actually transport them. And that doesn't pertain to the special ed students, but for the regular educational students. We don't get aid on anything. We transport less than what the state requires you to transport.
And
So-
if our vendors have to buy electric buses, we're gonna be bearing the
Oh,
cost.
yeah, the contract's gonna change even more.
You know, and they're 4 times more expensive.
Especially if they don't get the NYSERDA grants.
We
and
have
the-
so many things to talk to Kathy Hochul about.
You guys should pay her a visit. And your
You
city
ain't got to
councilman.
like nobody to have a conversation.
Any other questions, board members?
Crossing guards.
Okay, Terry, I do have 2 questions, and one might be you, Shannon. So when you were talking about, it's the slide 2024-25 budget development buildings, I just have an I wonder. I'm wondering, when you mentioned that Big Picture is getting another assistant principal, I'm wondering, is there like, do we look at the numbers of a building to determine if we're going to add another administrator?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
based on enrollment, and that's like the
Oh.
whole staffing, if we see the need,
Okay.
based on enrollment.
Yeah, so
we're adding-
We're increasing.
so there is no mandated ratio, so I want to be clear. There's no mandated ratio for any administrator in any position other than a superintendent of schools and a director of athletics are the only 2 positions that are required by the state of New York in a district. So I just be clear, okay?
Okay.
What we've tried to do is use a ratio of around 1 to 300 or so for assistant principals, or 1/250 to 300. With Big Picture adding an additional grade level, they're going to be over 150. But also, these are a different student population. So we wanted to add it now while we could, knowing that we're not going to add it later on, 2 years from now. So they're going to be about 150 kids next year. So we added it now, and they won't get it. And the other thing that was important is that they were freshmen this year. Next year, they'll be freshmen and sophomore. So we wanted the assistant principal to also grow with the school. As the school grows up, eventually it'll be, over 280 kids there potentially. So that'll be ultimately the piece. And we're adding it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a new person. If you heard Terry earlier, with Steinmetz Career Leadership Academy phasing out, we will have administrators there that need to get placed, and they could potentially assume the vacancy, so.
Okay. Okay. And then my other question is actually from the surveys that we received for the superintendent search. There were not many, but there were a few questions around the pre-K program. And the question was, and I'm paraphrasing, there's a feeling from those that submitted the survey that folks that are being put in the pre-K position are not pre-K specifically certified, that they might have other, and I can send it to you exactly the survey, but
I believe they're all child.
Yeah, they have to be
Yeah.
early childhood certification.
yeah. So I just wanted, because I think
All
it's
of our
important
teachers
because
are.
there was a strong sentiment and again, I'll send these to you. There was
And
a
I think we
strong
even
sentiment.
verify our community-based partners that they're
Okay.
all
Yes.
certified also, so it's
Yes.
not.
They get cited,
Pre- Yeah.
Five-year plan
Mm-hmm.
for any teacher that's not certified. So they're showing us that they're working towards it,
Okay.
but that's a part of a requirement that we're asking them to do.
Okay, thank you. And unfortunately, I think 3 of them they don't have their contact information. So I think it's important that we're talking about this. And I think 1 does, but I'll share it with you. I just got to comb through the 641 surveys.
Yeah. Yeah, what I would say, Board President, if you have the specifics, please let us know so we can follow
Okay.
directly.
Yep.
That comes out of teaching and learning, but they're all required to have early child, all Schenectady
Yes.
City School District
Yes.
UPK programs are early childhood. Community-based organizations, if you didn't catch what I learned, the person who supervises it could be certified, but then the people working it may not, but they have to have a plan within 5 years to get them certified. So there could be some truth to that feedback, depending on where that survey respondent has their child in a community-based. So if it's a CBO that doesn't have it, remember, the manager or the supervisor is the certified person. The people working with the kids may not be, but they're supposed to be working towards it. So
Okay.
there could be some truth to that.
Okay.
And we also have a.
But not ours,
We have a
not the ones in our
paraprofessional.
schools.
We have a
Okay.
paraprofessional that has to be in there also.
Correct.
They're not certified, so maybe they could be mistaking
The para-
that requirement of the paraprofessional for 18 students.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Board Member Kathy?
2 quick questions. Adult education, I see 18 faculty, full-time. How many adult, I don't know much about that, how many adult education students we have?
Jesse?
Maybe,
No.
maybe.
Well, why don't we do this, Kathy? We can give you numbers of sections, but basically, it's not 18 FTEs. It's the equivalent of 18 FTEs because he may offer a 3-hour course here, a 3-hour course here.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
so-
understand.
And
That's
the incarcerated
for-
youth and.
Incarcerated,
Yeah,
yes,
they're-
we can get you the specifics on
we
it.
can-
And the
Yeah.
other thing, are we gonna be criticized, we're using part of our surplus, in next year, about 6 million it looked like, or
Yep,
something, 4
yep.
million or 6 million.
Savings from the current
And
year, yeah.
So I recall in my prior days here that we were criticized by the comptroller's office for the use of surplus because it says you're not able to get your budget together within
Sustain
the
it, yep.
actual resources you have. So how do we avoid, any, becoming one of these financially troubled districts or whatever the terms are? I
Yeah,
don't remember.
we're not, basically, we're not using our fund balance, we're using savings from the current year to pay for subsequent expenses, so we have savings in the current year. If you want to go with the state model, you would have to make those program staffing cuts, but we don't have to do that right now. We're within the 4%. If you look at all of our other reserves, some of them are considered low, which we are trying to build up to.
Right.
So we are not, we just went through the OSC audit, and they did not identify any issues with our fund balances and our current operations in regards to fund
No,
balances.
but I meant when
So
we
they don't
use-
want you to be above the 4%,
Right,
but they don't want you to use your fund balance. So what do you do?
I know, $1 over or $1 under, they're
Yep.
gonna criticize.
So we are making sure we're at the 4% and saving enough of the reserves.
So we'll have recommendations on reserves
Yeah, I'll.
in June or something,
Yep,
based
yeah.
on whatever we're looking at in the way
Yep.
of savings.
Yeah, right here, like fund balance, so we will look, we'll have a better projection. We are not shutting down, but we are requiring all the buildings to have all their purchase orders submitted by April 1st for the rest of the school year. So we'll have a better idea of where we stand within the next month or so. I have a pretty good idea now, but with trying to fund everything, we'll be there.
Okay, thank you.
And Jesse did text me some numbers, about 1,000 over the course of a year in adult ed and 550 in continuing ed. So, but we can get you specific breakdowns if you want more.
Okay.
Thanks. Thanks, Jesse.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
Yeah.
I loved that presentation. It was riveting.
Okay, so we have a second opportunity for comments from the public or board members. Any comments?
Well, one just quick comment. Tomorrow, because we always like to plan ahead. Tomorrow, Dr. Cotto will be meeting with the Superintendent Student Advisory Council, which is about 30 so students from all the schools representing them. It'll be their first take to meet the new superintendent. They're going to spend time together, talk about what they want him to do in the first 100 days. Mr. Joe DiCaprio will be there joining him as well. And so it should be a cool thing. You'll see some more footage. So they're going to give him firsthand information, what they want him to do the first 100 days. And so they're also getting a cool polo shirt that says Superintendent Student Advisory Council. So look for them to be wearing those out in the community to represent. And exactly. The kids love swag and food. So we'll have both for them tomorrow.
And so the board knows Joyce is part of that council, so perhaps she'll give us a report about that as well.
The next one.
Yeah, at the next board meeting. Okay? Exec sessions.
No,
Okay. So, if there is no further business to discuss, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting. May I have a motion? Thank you.
Second.
Board Member Jamaica and Board Member Vivian. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries to adjourn the meeting. Have a great evening, everyone.
That's great. I thought we had executive session.
I think he was just here at the end of it. People